Hello, Info fans! It's time for another challenge. Today we're revisiting our famous 72 Hours Homeless Challenge and giving our favorite lab rat a break. Instead of living on the street, he gets to live in his car. With all that extra luxury though, we're upping the stakes by making him live an entire week out of his car. When you really think about it, it's like a mini apartment on wheels. So stay tuned for yet another Infographics Challenge. Day 1. My Homeless for 72 Hours challenge ended up being one of my most popular and controversial, judging by the comments. Surprisingly though, most of the comments were overwhelmingly positive, and we got a ton of emails from people thanking us for letting them know what it's like for homeless people, with everyone pledging to be more charitable going forward. Sometimes we do silly challenges, and sometimes we do things like this to bring attention to real issues. So my new challenge is to live out a lifestyle that's sadly all too familiar for many young people today. Live out of my car for a week. With rent prices getting higher and higher every year in every large city in the world, and buying a house being completely out of the question for all but a small segment of the population, many people are being forced to live out of their cars for weeks, months, or even years at a time. Now I get to find out what that life's like. The rules are simple: no entering my comfortable apartment or even a friend's place for an entire week. Also, no spending cash. That's right, I start out only with the clothes on my back and a full tank of gas. I don't have to survive in my car for a week. I have to earn money and find food. It's urban survival all over again. So I took my car and drove to the east side of LA, as far as I could go from me and the girlfriend's cute apartment by the beach and the very gentrified neighborhood we live in. These streets are rough, and the first thing I set myself to was finding a way to earn money for the day. I hadn't eaten anything for breakfast, and I figured I wasn't going to get anything until lunch, if I made any money. I immediately headed for the hardware stores and truck rental places, looking for a spot with day laborers waiting to get picked up for a job or two. I got some stares from the mostly Hispanic group, but eventually they warmed up to me thanks to me speaking some Spanish. As we waited for someone to come by looking for workers, we talked about life, family, and work. Sadly, I had to lie to keep my cover, and I really dislike being deceitful. It was well past noon, and I'd been waiting for at least 5 hours before finally someone came up looking for people to help move office equipment around. I got picked up and loaded into the back of a pickup truck, then driven a few miles away to what looked like a new office building. And at this point, I hadn't eaten or drank anything in about 16 hours, and I was feeling it for sure. But by excusing myself to the bathroom, I was able to hydrate in the sink at least. We moved heavy furniture and boxes of supplies around for a good 6 hours, honest to God, back-breaking labor. At the end of our little work day, already late in the evening, we got $40 each and let out the front door. Not even a ride back to where we got picked up. Doing the math, we earned about $6.66 or $5.34 under the legal minimum wage in California. Then I had a good 4-mile walk back to where my car was parked on top of that, but most of the guys had even further to go than that. The guys I was with told me I was lucky. Usually they get $40 for 12 to 16-hour workday, and the only reason we got what we got today was because the guy was late coming to pick up workers. He must have been feeling generous too, because he paid the normal rate instead of prorating it. By the time I got back to my car, it was really late, and I was exhausted from not eating and moving really heavy stuff around for 6 hours. I hit up a drive-thru and found a quiet spot to park my car, and then finally answered the million texts the girlfriend had very worldly been sending me throughout the day. I made a rule I wouldn't text back until the evening each night though, and was holding firm to it, which she hated. Day 2. I already know from my previous stint living on the streets for 72 hours that for homeless people, the day starts early, at least if you want to earn anything. I hit up a drive-thru again for some breakfast and made my way back to the same spot I'd gotten picked up for work at before. The same group of guys was still there, and because I felt bad about potentially taking one of their jobs, I bought them breakfast, which ate up most of my money. But you know what? In 6 more days, I'd be warm and comfortable at home again, so going hungry for a little bit if I didn't score work that day was a minor inconvenience compared to the way the guys lit up on seeing me bring them Egg McMuffins and hash browns. It'd been bothering me the entire night before that I could potentially be taking someone else's work for the day who definitely needed it more than me. So I resolved that after this challenge I'd make things right. The group had a sense of camaraderie that only comes from men caught together in adverse conditions. It reminded me a lot of the fellowship between guys in my old unit in the military. There was the usual good-natured ribbing, the complaining, and a lot of looking out for each other. What surprised me the most was how quickly the guys accepted me, despite being white and a complete stranger 24 hours ago. This day we got lucky and several people showed up early looking for help. I got picked along with 4 other guys by 2 college kids to help them move out of their apartment. What really bothered me about this this job, though, was when one of the kids asked me in private if I could keep an eye on the other guys with me. I knew why he did it. I'm white, so he figured I was less likely to steal something from them. Being in a mixed-race relationship, I had to deal with racism from time to time, but this was the first time I experienced something quite like this. I needed the money, so I didn't say anything. But I can't help but wonder what in the world made him think, aside from the color of my skin, that I was any more trustworthy than my Hispanic workmates. I almost wanted to rob them blind just to teach them a lesson. Anyways, it was another long, hard day moving heavy crap around. First out of their apartment, then loading it into a truck, and then unpacking it at their new place. The two kids bought themselves lunch at one point, but didn't bother to ask if any of us wanted anything. When I commented on the fact to one of the older guys I was working with, he just shrugged his shoulders and said that's how it is. We worked from about 8 in the morning until about 7 at night and had no food the entire time. Thing is, this was perfectly normal for the guys I was working with. This challenge was starting to piss me off, and I think the girlfriend knew because she insisted on having a phone conversation that night. It was so nice to hear her voice, and yeah, I know it had only been 48 hours, but what can I say? I'm one of those guys that doesn't need guys' night out or anything like that because she's my best friend. I can't imagine wanting to do anything without her. Day 3. On the night of day 2, I got woken up by cops who said that I couldn't park where I was at, which was outside some warehouse in an industrial area. As I would find out, one of the hardest parts of living out of your car is finding somewhere to park where people and police don't harass you or tell you to move your car. I get it, the cops are just doing their jobs, but city policy is clearly geared at keeping transients out of public sight. The college kids the day before paid us a whopping $50 for almost 12 hours of work, and as I was quickly finding out, what you make as a laborer is completely up to what people want to pay you. When you have no options, you just take what you can get. I went back to the guys again bright and early, bringing breakfast once more, though it basically ate up all the money I had, and talked to the older guy from the day before. He was sort of the leader in the group, I could tell, and I asked him about the pay and what he typically earns. He said on a good month he can make $1,000, but that's money that has to be split between himself, his wife, and his 3-year-old daughter. $1,000 in Los Angeles is insane. The average rent at a 1-bedroom apartment is well over that. Thing is, I knew from previous experience that you can make decent money panhandling if you find a good spot, and I asked him why he never considered doing that. He flat out rejected the idea, and he said to me, and I really hope I'm remembering his exact words correctly here, "If I do that, then I'm exactly what the people who say I'm a problem in this country think I am. I'm a worker. I came here to work, not to beg. One day someone will see that, and I'll get a real job." I've known a lot of brave guys in my time, people that I guess others would look up to and say, "Now that's a man." Let me tell you from firsthand experience, this was a man, and I instantly admired him for his conviction. I never asked my new friend if he was here legally or illegally, but I know this country could use a hell of a lot more people like him. The rest of the day was relatively uneventful. I was really moved by what my friend had said, and I refused when I got picked for jobs until everyone who was there before me got to work that day. But then, though, there was no more work, so I didn't earn anything that day. Having spent what I'd made on 2 or 3 shirts from a local Goodwill, so I didn't wear the same thing every day, and breakfast for the group of guys every morning, I was flat out of cash, so day 3, I didn't eat. Day 4. Got harassed again on the night of day 3 about where I was parking, twice this time. I ended up having to park in a really crappy alleyway. There was another van there which I'm sure was someone else living out of their car. I stopped by a gas station and was refused to use the restroom unless I bought something. All I really wanted to do was just freshen up in the sink. I had literally no money on me though, and it was humiliating to admit I couldn't even afford to buy a candy bar and get the key to the bathroom. The clerk and some of the guests looked pretty disgusted at me, and honestly, those were looks I was starting to get a lot. I'm familiar with the looks though from my 72 hours homeless challenge. People look at you like you gross them out, or they do the opposite and literally pretend like you don't exist. It's extremely dehumanizing, and I'll admit I used to walk by homeless people and pretend they didn't exist too, because noticing them would have been uncomfortable. After my challenge, I changed though, and as people kept treating me like crap, I couldn't help but think of the irony. In my normal life, I always carry 20 around and give it anytime someone asks me for some change. I also make sure to ask the person's name and then wish them well. Sure, getting a crisp 20 is great, I'm sure, but you wouldn't believe what humanizing someone and asking their name does for them when they're ignored or looked down on all day long. I finally found a bathroom that morning and freshened up as best I could, then hurried to the job spot a bit late. This time I didn't even have breakfast for myself, and when one of the guys found out I hadn't eaten anything since the day before yesterday, he immediately went and bought me a burrito from a street vendor, even though I know that was money he needed for himself. I'm a firm believer that who you are when the chips are all down is who you really are inside, and this group of guys looking for jobs outside a truck rental place that I'd normally ignore were turning out to be some of the highest integrity people I knew. It only made me madder to think about the day that I was asked to supervise because I was white and they weren't. We all got lucky and got to work that day, and well, not much to say about it except it was another 12-hour day, and again, we weren't given any food at lunch or given a break. At the end of the day, we all made $45, and once more, had to either walk or take a bus back to wherever we came from, not even a ride back to where we got picked up at. At least I got to eat that night. Day 5. A homeless guy broke my window on the night of day 4. I guess I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, or maybe the guy was being territorial, I don't know. He was very clearly out of his mind though and strung out on something because he yelled at me in my car and then threw a glass bottle, cracking the front windshield. Then he just calmly turned around and pushed a cart full of trash down the road. It was easy to get mad. Hell, I wanted to go after this guy, but then I stopped and thought about it. The guy was clearly out of it, probably completely unaware of what he was doing. Mental illness is endemic among homeless people. In fact, if you're mentally ill, you're exponentially more likely to end up homeless than if you're not. Add on top of that the drugs that the homeless people often take just to escape their miserable lives for a few hours, and well, you've got someone completely off their gourd who likely has no idea what they're doing. Can you really get mad at someone with no control of their actions? Sure, I can already hear the comments saying, well, you can control if you take drugs or not, which only shows that these people don't understand at all what it's like to need an escape from your daily hell, so bad that you'll turn to anything. Besides, I have insurance, it's literally not a big deal. My week living in the car had to be cut short on day 5, unfortunately. I'm prone to kidney stones and have been having them regularly since I was 20 years old, and I guess the dehydration, stress, and poor food the last week didn't help matters and may have encouraged a new stone to start its journey out of the kidneys and down my urinary tract. I woke up in the morning with extreme pain in my side and immediately recognized the symptoms of a kidney stone. The pain very quickly grew intolerable as I started to move around, and I knew I was in trouble. If you've never had a kidney stone, it's apparently one of the most painful things you can experience. I can attest to that. I barely managed to make it to an ER on my own, and I guess I was a little funky from not bathing regularly and working really hard over the last week, so the staff must have assumed I was homeless. They were pretty shocked when I showed them proof of very good medical insurance though, but I still had to wait an hour for an open bed in the back before getting any painkillers. Eventually I got put into bed and got my painkillers, which stopped the extreme pain. I totally forgotten to let the girlfriend know until they finally admitted me into the back, and she showed up in tears because she was so distraught. She plays at being a tough cookie, but she's soft as they come inside. So, what's my week taught me about living out of my car? Well, being homeless is tough, but most people understand that. What they probably don't understand is just how dehumanizing an experience it can be. Those day laborers and homeless people you walk by every day, they're real people, and odds are they're a lot better people than you imagine they are. A week later, I went back to find the guys at the truck rental place, and they were happy to see me. I admitted that I was doing this all for a job, and I split up into envelopes what I would have made for this episode and gave the money to them. I might have taken work from some of them over the week, so I had to make things right. I also put them in touch with a guy I know that hires and trains grips for film sets and pays a hell of a lot better wage than just $40 for a back-breaking 15-hour day. I can't help but think after this challenge about how there's all this talk about the American dream and how that dream is really well and truly busted when so many people are living out of their cars and others who are genuinely looking to be honest, hard workers have to resort to begging for jobs on the street. Now check out our other challenge. I went homeless for 72 hours, or watch this vid instead.